So this first sentence, yeah, anybody.
You got Congress, I mean, is passing a law, and then you got the president ratifying it or signing it. So, he's got those are two main actors involved. So, the government is proposing something, and we got to make sure it's, if it passes mustard or not, is what I know.
Okay.
I
So
was
would
gonna
you,
say,
oh,
I was
just
gonna say like public policy was on my brain right there, like public policy, public policy.
Yeah.
good. And really getting into public policy, right? You always, when you're talking about government passing a law, you always want to know the why. Okay. Where is the why going to end up being featured heavily in an analysis in con law? Where's the why going to show up heavily? In your analysis of what? Some type of
Standard of review?
yeah, scrutiny test,
Oh yeah.
right? And your scrutiny test, remember, you always have, was it a compelling government interest? Was it a rational, a legitimate government interest, right? Et cetera. So you need to know what the interest is that the government had in passing that law. So this is always something that's highlighted. And you need to kind of like rework this sentence in a bit because it's a lot of words in there: diabetes, exercise, diet, right? Just to kind of get the sense. And at the end of the day, it sounds like the issue at hand is that school age children there's a significant rise in diabetes amongst this population. All right, cool. And then it says, based upon a link between then diabetes and exercise and diet, they're passing this Childhood Physical Education Act. Okay, so what's the issue? A rise in diabetes. This act is going to be seemingly going towards exercise and diet, and they're connecting it to this diabetes issue. Okay, cool. So again, all of that you have to take a second with, right? And that's, again, just 75% of the first sentence. And then it says they passed and signed the Childhood Physical Education Act. And to your point, Jack, what you see here is essentially, something that they're telling us is not an issue, which is the process of passing a law of bicameralism and presentment. And here there's no issue because Congress has passed and the president has signed. So it seems like bicameralism and presentment is all okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next sentence. The act administered by the Federal Department of Education. All right, when I see that it's administered by the Federal Department of Education, I'm thinking of the Federal Department of Education as what?
The government actor?
And
A branch of
specifically
government, yeah.
a branch of government. Which branch of government would this fall under?
Well, it's federal department, federal, so um,
So you have judicial, legislative, and executive, right? And the executive branch is made up of the president and
Congress. Oh,
executive agencies. Congress is part of the legislative branch.
right,
So you have
right.
executive agencies, the FDA, right? The
Executive
DEA,
branch, yeah.
right? Anything you have that like acronym for. So this Federal Department of Education sounds like it's an executive agency. So just good to just kind of like, all right, the act is administered by this executive agency. It
Okay.
is provides significant additional funds to states for public schools with daily physical education classes for students. All right, one more time, even for myself, I got to make sure I'm really comprehending that. Significant funds, like how much? Just significant, right? That's open to interpretation on what that is, but we know it's significant to states. So you're giving money to the states for them to use it for public schools with daily physical education classes for students. Okay, so you need PE classes and you need them daily, right? So again, you want to like connect the fact pattern in that way. All right, from a perspective of knowing the material tested on the bar, from studying con law, what should be triggered here, right? You're dealing with a law passed by Congress that ultimately looks like we're going to be challenging the constitutionality of. And you see this law, what are some things that might be jumping out at you? Right, specifically around the ability to pass this law. Stephanie?
The spending.
There it is, right? You got to show that you had the source of power to pass this law. This is a federal law. And we know the top three are commerce, taxing, and spending, right? And so this is not a tax. Commerce clause, could you try some stretch argument? Maybe, right? Like, like diabetes is connected to the health industry. Like, can they can make stretch arguments for the commerce clause always, but do you need to here? Absolutely not, because this is clearly a law that is allocating funds that falls squarely within the spending power realm. All right, so there we go. That's what we wanted to catch. Then it says these funds are to be used for the hiring of additional PE teachers and purchase of PE equipment. Okay, cool. All right, we need some more, Mr. Jacksons, and we need some more dodgeballs and handballs, right? So again, I'm showing you guys an example of what I do when I read things, just so I can connect with the fact pattern. This is optional, but I think it goes a long way so you can just really see what's going on. All right, so the testimony before Congress has revealed that. So I'm pausing there for a second and I'm transitioning my brain, right? So now I know, right, we're getting into like information that was brought to Congress, okay? And so I'm like, all right, let me switch gears into that. On average, public schools spend only 25% of their school lunch budgets on fresh fruits and vegetables. The act requires that states accepting the funds must enact legislation setting as a minimum that 50% of public school lunch budgets are be allocated to the purchase of fresh fruits and vegetables. All right. Can somebody summarize this paragraph and give me just a little bit of your opinion and kind of emotion connected to this? Again, we never want too much emotion, but what are just some of your thoughts on what's going on here? Yeah, Vincent.
Can I say something?
Um,
I don't know, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah, I saw Vincent raise his hand, so I'll take Vincent on this one, and then I'll come back to you for the next one. And who was
Okay.
that? Was that Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, I'll come back to you, Lisa.
So I will go. First of all, I found this essay on the exam day to be I thought it was very convoluted. Very confused. It wasn't the fastballs down the middle that I was looking for, like equal protection, I don't know, strict scrutiny. These are things I actually just wrote about. And my score reflected that. I was way off. I knew it when I walked out of there. I believe I got a 50 on the so that first part you just broke down, I saw it as you explained it, but for some reason spending power or the spending, I wasn't even I don't know, just nothing prompted me to even think to go there. I think I wrote a little bit about the commerce clause, and it was just very bad. But either way, as far as this paragraph, it and since public schools are only spending 25%, I saw this as commandeering. I believe I wrote about them not doing what they were supposed to be doing with this with funds.
Yeah. So Vincent, I think that's pretty good, right? And what I want you to do is two things. I want you to connect with the facts, and then I want you to see if any issues of law are triggered. So what I'm thinking here, my brain was, when I first read this, I'm like, okay, public schools spend only 25%. Well, the fact of the matter is they're kind of leading you into the emotion to have by saying only 25%. So it's sounding as though like, all right, well, maybe they're not spending enough of their money on healthy foods, right? So that's kind of the vibe that they're giving off. And then it's saying that, all right, in order for the state to receive this funding, they must enact legislation, right, that says that you're going to spend at least half of your lunch budget on fresh fruits and vegetables. And so, okay, they want to bump it up to 50. You're thinking like this is a very, good purpose, good, healthy thing. They're looking out for the kids. But yes, there is a possible issue here, and it is raising red flags for commandeering. There are two ways that commandeering is triggered. What are the two ways that commandeering is triggered, you guys? Ramona?
Well, can I say something?
Yeah. And then you know what, too, to avoid kind of different people kind of starting, what we'll do is we usually use in our class the digital raise hand feature. And
Oh,
then I'll
okay. I don't,
so everybody can
where's
use
the
that
raise
when they're ready
hand?
to participate. So yeah, go ahead, go for it, Lisa. What are the two different ways to trigger the commandeering clause?
Okay, first of all, the commandeering is the concept of federalism. So it's along the line about the 10th Amendment. So whatever, if it not a fun, if I was thinking along the line, if it not a fundamental right, such as race, you know, we all know about the fundamental right. In this case right here, regarding the lunch program, it doesn't trigger any fundamental right. So
Now,
in order for federal,
let me read.
with the enabling that this is not the Federal Enabling Act. I think it has to be. I think the word that I remember is
Lisa,
concrete and no, not.
Yeah, let me redirect you, Lisa. So there's two ways to trigger the commandeering rule. It's either the federal government is forcing the state to enact legislation, or they are asking for their assistance in carrying out a federal law. Right. So those are the clean, simple two ways that you're triggering commandeering. Federal government saying, hey, states, we want you to pass this law. Or they're saying, hey, states, we've passed a law and we want your help enforcing it. We want you to enforce it at your DMVs, or we want you to arrest people that violate this federal law, whatever it may be. And so here, this is obviously within that first category that they are saying that in order to receive this funding, you must pass this law. So this is a classic commandeering trigger, right, for discussion. All right, then we're going to get into then the next paragraph. Testimony has also revealed that rates of childhood diabetes tends to be highest in minority and low-income communities. The act has significant additional subsidies for public schools where the majority of the student population is non-Caucasian. So let's try this one more time. Again, give me a little bit of an interpretation of this paragraph, and then also give me what area of law you think was triggered. Let's try Jack on this one.
Right. So right away, I took this to mean that it's one of the scrutiny tests is gonna, we're gonna need to use one regarding race because they're triggering students that are not Caucasian based on the low income housing and where they live.
Okay, so we see that we are treating minorities and low income communities, and really specifically it's more so on the basis of minorities. Once we see what the act does, the act has significant additional subsidies for public schools where the majority of the student population is non-Caucasian. So even though low income is brought into that first sentence, it's not listed ultimately as a factor in where these additional subsidies. It's really on the basis of anywhere where the student population, majority of it is non-Caucasian. So ultimately what we have here is the federal government is essentially creating a classification and treating now schools, in case people, right, differently on the basis of race. Ding, ding, ding. What flags are going off here, Jack?
What is that? That's where I get messed up with their, isn't it this, is it strict scrutiny test on that one? Right.
Yeah. And so overall, right, equal protection clause, and that, yes, this is likely going to trigger strict scrutiny, which is a good argument, then for your plaintiff. Okay, cool. So paragraph 1 is really talking about the fact that in order to receive this funding, here's what you must first do, states. And then the second paragraph is talking about a component of the statute that's actually giving preferential treatment or additional treatment to public schools where majority of the students are non-Caucasian. Okay. All right, next, before the act has gone into effect, ding, ding, ding. Ramona, what am I thinking there? As soon as I see before the act has gone into effect.
Oh, I'm thinking standing
And
or
not so much
injury.
ripeness.
Yeah, ripeness. Yeah, there we go.
There we go, ripeness. I think standing is ultimately still triggered, but not by that sentence. Before and I guess you could go standing and yeah, injury, because like you can't suffer the injury yet if it's not in effect. So I think that's actually good as well. But ripeness is that big one as well, because yeah, it's not an actual law. It says state X through its attorney general has brought suit in federal court seeking a declaratory judgment that the act is unconstitutional. So again, the writing was on the wall there. We could really see that this was ultimately going to be a situation where you have a law and you're seeing if you can shoot it down. Then, and this could be its own separate paragraph, the National Association of School Dietitians, the NASD, is seeking to intervene in the Attorney General's lawsuit. This is a very interesting word choice, right? And an interesting scenario that we've seen in a con law essay. We've never seen this like, oh, seeking to intervene, right? That word intervene or intervention, right, is also a little bit of like a Civ Pro concept, right? Like of joinder when somebody wants to intervene into a case. But this is not really giving the vibe of a Civ Pro essay ultimately, in that there's no motion and it's asking, should the motion be granted or denied? And I think ultimately you didn't really want to go too far down the Civ Pro route here. I think this is ultimately just, some convoluted word choice that they used to talk about standing for NASD. All right. It says here, according to the NASD's charter, it seeks to promote healthy diets for school-age children, especially through lunch school programs. If we remember the framework of organizational standing, right, what element is that sentence going to go to? There's a particular element, and right now this is kind of like ringing to me really quickly, like, oh, this is going to go there. Ramona?
It's like their mission. They have to have a common mission with the injured parties. The organization has to have a common mission.
Yes, the purpose of the organization has to be germane, right, to the issue at hand, to the injured parties, et cetera. Exactly. And so, yep, that's exactly where I think that's going to go. And then it just says the Attorney General opposes NASD's intervention. All right. Then you have your call to question. What constitutional challenges can the Attorney General make to the act, and are they likely to succeed? So question one is all about shooting down the law. And then does NASD have standing to intervene? Okay. Now, one thing that was tricky about this is that it's clear that you should talk about organization standing, since, right, this is seemingly an organization. But organization standing is when you are bringing suit on behalf of your what, Mamta?
On behalf of your organization, or like one
Yeah.
person has to have standing. At least one person has to have standing in the entire.
But my question, right? My question is just, you're bringing the suit. If it's organization standing, it's because you are bringing suit on behalf of your, not organization, but on behalf of your members. Right. So that's the concept of organization standing, that one organization is bringing it on behalf of their members. The most classic example of that is when you have like a union, right? And the union group is bringing the suit on behalf of their union members. All right. Here, it's not entirely clear whether NASD is bringing this on behalf of its members, or it's just bringing it, right, as an individual organization. So you're actually going to discuss standing and organization standing here. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. I think that makes number two really easy. Sometimes I'll do that. I won't talk about number two first. We talked about this the other day with the student, right? You never want to get too cheeky with the bar exam and do things out of order. It's not a good idea. So I think I have fleshed out number two quickly. I will do that from an outline perspective. That number two is like, that's a narrowly written question. Does NASD have standing? So I know there's not much, and I think I'm just going to talk about ordinary standing and organization standing. Cool. I can put that away. I know most of my points are in number one. So let's talk about number one. Mamta, how are you going to start this essay? What's the first heading that you're going to put?
I think I would go with the justiciability doctrines first. I think that's exactly what I did too on this essay. I talked
Good.
about the Ramsey.
Always the safe place to start in a con law essay is consider how much justiciability you're going to talk about, and if so, yeah, to what extent. So it's my rule of thumb. You kind of hear different theories and approaches to this. It's my rule of thumb that like I'm always going to talk about standing, and it's just how many facts are going to a discussion of standing that determines the extent in which I talk about it. So sometimes it could be all in like, 3 sentences. I'll have a heading and quick discussion if it's like a slam dunk. But if it's something that's really like, oh, there might be some missing elements, then I'll tease it out, maybe have a subheading for each element and things like that. So what were the justiciability doctrines that you would have triggered here, Mamta?
Let me think. So I think I talked about ripeness. Maybe I might have touched on mootness because I think, what is it? If they had like actually implemented the program, it would make the problem just kind of go away on its own. RA, what was the A? I'm thinking of Ramsey right now, so I'm trying to go down the list of what I did.
Advisory opinion, political questions, standing, and 11th Amendment. So we don't know who's being sued here. So it's not necessarily like this. I mean, it's the state that's bringing the lawsuit. So it doesn't appear to be any 11th Amendment issue. I don't think this is a mootness issue either. This is not a classic trigger for Mamta where you have an issue that's then been resolved. And if anything, it looks like the state and the NASD are seemingly not liking this law, right? This question kind of takes you on an emotional roller coaster in a way, because it sounds like Congress is doing something right in theory good, and then you have the state challenging it, and it looks like NASD wants to challenge it as well, and they're not even really telling us like on what grounds or why. So it's hard to kind of like fully connect with it, but at the end of the day, state X and NASD is wanting to intervene as a plaintiff. So for some reason, they want to shoot this law down. So there is no mootness issue, right? Because mootness is you brought this lawsuit, and then after you filed the lawsuit, the issue has been resolved. But here there is no resolve of the issue. So I would say no mootness. I think ripeness and standing are the big ones here. Now, let's get to the heart of this question. All right. At the end of the day, it says, what constitutional challenges can the Attorney General make to the act? So we know we want to shoot down this law. We have 3 branches of government, and this is going back to that whole legally fit folder system that I talked to you guys about, that this helps you identify what you want to talk about. All right, so let me go ahead and just show you guys how you would navigate this again using our system. All right, so common law folder system. First thing is, let me take this to one page. Right, everything in con law is going to fit within these 3 sections. Lisa, when we're looking at shooting down this law, are we going to focus on the judicial branch, the legislative branch, or the executive branch? Oh, you're muted, Lisa. Lisa, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep. So
I will
legislative.
first on number 1 talk about the legislative branch, because we have to talk about what Congress power is under. Is the texting.
Let's not go too far. Let's not go too far, Lisa. I'm gonna carry us through. So I just want to know from these 3 levels, what is it? Yeah, this is the legislative branch because we're dealing with the law. So then we're gonna go deeper into the legislative branch. Right. The way our system works is that if you're trying to shoot down a law, these are the 2 questions, right, or 2 options you have to focus on. Did Congress / the state have the power to pass the law, and or did Congress / state law violate any individual rights? All right. So let's spread the wealth. Stephanie, let's go to you. I know you're with us. So Stephanie, out of these 2, are you going to discuss one or both of these in this fact pattern? Stephanie, I thought I knew you were with me. So let me go back to Mamta. So Mamta, for those two, which ones are you going to do? One of those or both of those?
I think I want to say I did both.
Yeah, I think in order to choose this, you need to have an understanding of that next level of what's inside of it to see, okay, like it makes sense to talk about that. So here you see, you can see the individual rights to see if any of those seem to be in action. And you want these checklists so you can issue spot with confidence. All right, we're going to talk about government action because you always do that. Is there anything here with religion, Mamta? Nope. Association, speech, nope. Equal protection, maybe. Yeah, I think definitely equal protection. Substantive due process, that's always something you can throw in, as we've learned in Legally Fit. There's always room to just kind of throw that out if you have nothing else to talk about. Procedural due process, there's nothing about improper or insufficient procedure here. And then lastly, you have takings. There is no taking of property. So cool. I am going to talk about this law violating individual rights. And specifically, I'm going to do equal protection and substantive due process. I am going to talk about, did Congress or state have the power to pass the law? Here, it's not state, it is Congress, it's a federal law. And I know I have a framework for that. For that framework, I'm going to go to our chart so we can see how we break down this whole, did they have the power to pass the law? Okay, let's find our chart for that. Okay, so did Congress or state have the power to pass the law? So this is one of our Legally Fit charts that walks you through being able to do an analysis. The first question is, are we dealing with the federal law or state law? Here, this is Congress, this is the federal law, so we're going down the left side of our chart. Is the federal law within Congress's source of power? All right, so you have these 5 options here, right? And we know we've already issue spotted that this is going to fall within spending. Maybe you want to talk about Commerce Clause. I really, it's not needed, but you can do a quick little one-liner of raise and dismiss. Is this going to definitely be spending? Then you have to ask yourself, does the federal law violate any limitations? And look, this thing is helping you issue spot on your own. And it's like, do I need this? And in fact, yes, I do. There are facts of commandeering here, right? That I need to at least discuss to see if it's illegal commandeering. So we have spending, we have commandeering, and then on the individual rights side, we had equal protection and maybe a due process. So I'm going to bring up my issue checklist that I created when I did this essay yesterday, and then I'm going to take any questions, and we're going to, make sure we all understand why everything was triggered. Okay. There we go. Share screen. Okay. So first off, show you guys again, I'm trying this new style of writing my notes, my reading comprehension notes as I go through an essay on my computer in this bullet point style. Definitely, again, something to consider doing in this modern world, this modern test taking style, where during COVID, we got used to doing a lot of these things on the computer. I really do like it. But if you are accustomed to and you enjoy taking your notes on paper, by all means, I never can write as much as I can type. So I think this is good just because it allows me to get more out. So you see here, identify what's the problem, significant rise in diabetes. What's the solution, right? And I kind of wrote all this stuff out. You had testimony before Congress, and then you had 2 testimonies, one about 25% of their lunch budgets, and then the other one about this being the highest in minority and low income. So I really have for me a nice little summary that this is not something that I just did at the end, just the way I did it with you guys. I was writing this out as I was reading. So some people will recommend reading an essay prompt like 2 or 3 times. I'm actually not a fan of reading the whole thing 2 or 3 times. More so I am reading it slowly once and understanding each paragraph and moving on when I'm ready. All right, and then we get to the issue checklist. So let's see what we have here. So what constitutional challenges? We have ripeness, boom. We have standing. And to that point, Ramona, it's like, really, what is the injury here, right? So you can kind of do some arguments back and forth. I think ultimately you will be able to satisfy this injury that this is a law that you're incentivizing states to do something, and it may be an unduly coercive incentive, right? So I think there's, easy grounds, but I think it's worth making that quick counter argument that, hey, they haven't really suffered anything. This is not a law that's gone into effect. So you can make that argument. Then we get into the legislative branch, right? This is just like a little intro for me, just to kind of like ground myself. I kind of am working my way through the folder system. So this is like stream of consciousness. I'm writing to myself. The goal is to strike down the act as unconstitutional. This is triggering the legislative branch section of our folder system. There are 2 ways to strike a law down, right? So I'm literally walking through this as I'm going through it. And then under they have the power to pass the law. This is a federal law. So I'm doing spending power, maybe commerce, not really needed. Limitation on power, 10th Amendment commandeering. My quick conclusion, this is not really needed. This is only for the advanced student that, you want to kind of feel things out while you're going through it. So don't focus on making conclusions. I can do this, guys, because I've done a million of these essays, so I can analyze quickly. But sometimes for us, if we're not at that mastery level, getting too much into the weeds of trying to do the analysis is going to take too long and keep you from seeing all the issues. And really, I'm not even doing this as I'm like going through these conclusions. I did that conclusion and I did this conclusion as well. I actually did that after I finished all of my outline. That was the last thing that I did, just to kind of assess where the strengths of these arguments lie. All right, just so I know when I get into writing, where am I going to be leaning? And I know because equal protection is going to be looking at strict scrutiny, and strict scrutiny is really good for the challenger. That's why I put here strong argument for the challenger, right? And then this is a spending law, right? And this is commandeering that we're going to trigger, but it's probably not going to be wrongful commandeering. So I'm leaning towards the defense here. Can anybody quickly see what I'm seeing to do kind of like this abridged analysis, just to kind of see where I'm leaning? Can anybody see, what that standout fact is or element is as to why this is likely not going to be unconstitutional commandeering? Ramona?
Sorry, I tried to go for the virtual hand.
Yeah.
I put general applicability, but I'm not sure.
Because this is a rule of general applicability. Okay, I don't think this is so much a rule of general applicability, because it's not something that is applying to all the states. Like the case that I think of, Ramona, for general applicability was like, all people who collect data cannot, give that data to third parties. And then the DMV was doing that. And it's like, DMV is a state agency. Well, it's like, hey, we're not just regulating the DMV, we're regulating everybody. That's a law of general applicability. This is a spending law saying like, hey, if you want to receive this funding, then this is what you have to do. So when you look at your 3 elements for commandeering, see if I can recall these quickly. You had it has the condition has to be clearly stated. Okay, the condition has to be, again, related to the action that you want the state to take, right? So the funding and what you're trying to take away, all that has to be connected. But right, if the federal government said, hey, I'll give you guys $50,000 a year in marine biology if you pass a law that bans marijuana, you'd be like, what the hell? Like, those aren't connected at all. Marine biology and a marijuana law, right? But here it's all connected, right? It said that we'll give you funding specifically for you to use for your public schools if you pass a law that in your public schools, right, the budget for those fruits and vegetables is at least 50%, right? So that seems to be connected enough. The last element is unduly coercive, right? And it has to be unduly coercive to be considered commandeering, right? Or illegal commandeering. And I don't think it's going to rise to that level, right? At the end of the day, this is not a situation where the state is already receiving existing funding and the federal government is threatening to take any of that away if they don't do something. They're creating a whole new funding program and saying, hey, we're putting this money out there, and in order to get it, this is what you have to do. So of course there are the arguments sometimes because they say like, oh, the states need money. So even when you're offering money, sometimes it can be unduly coercive. I don't think under these facts it is. And ultimately what they're asking them to do is just jump from 25% to 50% of what their budget is used on healthy food. So nothing about this seems unduly coercive. So that's the element that I'm quickly seeing, that there doesn't seem to be that like federal chokehold, right, on the states in this situation. This is new funding. Take it if you want it. And if you do take it, here's the slight adjustment you have to make. So that's where I'm leaning here. And that's why I'm going probably not. All right, on the violates individual right, you have equal protection. And again, this is a facial classification. I looked at an essay earlier today that I was talking with in a consultation with a student. And I told her I'll take a look at the essay just because I happened to be prepping for this common law essay. And they went into facially neutral, where that wasn't really needed here, right? Because it's seemingly on the face of this statute that they are discriminating on the basis of race, because it just says straight up, they are giving additional subsidies to schools where the majority of the population is non-Caucasian. So you don't have to go digging there, right? So I think that's the facial classification of race. Whether it's facial or non-facial, if you get to race, ultimately the level of scrutiny is strict, and then you're going to go ahead and apply that test. Now, this is, again, part of the analysis that I'm not going to do right now, okay? I'm not going to get into, whether this is a compelling government interest and think of some of the examples from the past. I'm going to wait till I have to analyze this to go into that. I do just know in general that if I'm dealing with strict scrutiny, I'm leaning right in favor of the challenger, because strict scrutiny is really hard for the government to satisfy that standard. All right. And then lastly, I put substantive due process. So this is by no means, I think, worth a long, big discussion. If for those that have taken Legally Fit and know my style, from the history of these essays, equal protection and substantive due process are a little bit like peanut butter and jelly topics. So if I see one, I'm going to talk about the other. I don't think, right, we definitely don't have, as you see here, a fundamental right. So this is a quick RBR discussion. Substantive due process is not going to put the challenger in a better argument because they got strict scrutiny through this equal protection framework. They're only going to get RBR. So it's like nothing here is really going to do the challenger any service, but the bar likes you to be thorough. So again, just in case there are some points here, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to be mindful to do this analysis very quickly. This is not a long analysis where I want to waste time. All right, and then we go into the standing, and again, we have standing and organizational standing. Okay, so that ultimately wraps up this essay. Let's talk about this from like a little bit of a big picture. Yesterday, we talked about what did you score on this essay, and maybe catching some of the things that you think now that you might have missed. And so we'll start with Mamta on this one. Mamta, what did you score on this common law essay? To remind you, this was question number 2. So what did you score, and are you kind of identifying some of the things that you missed?
So I scored a 70 on this essay. And I think what the issue was, though, was I talked about everything, that even the things like I was talking about earlier, like mootness, I just threw everything in there, like I word vomited so bad. So that's like, I think that's something that I should consider for the next time, is like being a little more strategic with what goes where, maybe even being a little more quicker with analysis.
So I'm guessing then, though, I mean, shoot, I wouldn't critique too much, right, on getting the 70. And that means you must have had time to like hit everything. And, you had even time to fill in some of that other stuff. So that sounds really good. So I'm guessing then you caught most of these issues, right? So you did spending part good. Did you do Commerce Clause or no?
Yeah, I did Commerce Clause.
Yeah, that's a little bit of my even like, vomit. Like you don't really need Commerce Clause, but like, let me get some extra points here. Why not?
You panic and you just start vomiting.
Exactly. All right. So you did 10th Amendment commandeering. You did equal protection. So did you do substantive due process?
I did do, because I remember during one of your, I think, what is it, like it was a workshop or something, you said you should probably peanut butter and jelly these.
Yeah.
So I literally heard you scream in my head at this on this exact question. I heard.
So it looks like, sandwiching those, again, was a good idea. If you in fact scored a 70 on that, like that's awesome. So it looks like that's awesome to hear that. Yeah, we get some kind of, usually we have to wait for the selected answer to kind of get a feel for, you know, how accurate this is. But for Mom to telling us that she scored a 70 and she more or less hit all, like, you know, all these things with the addition of mootness, there we go. We know where that lies. So we'll go to one more. We'll go to Vincent. Vincent, I know you were saying that you were on the other side of that scale there. You said for this one, you got a 50. So going through this, what are you identifying as the source of that issue? And I'm guessing if it was a 50, it might have been a little bit of missed issues, but then also probably like thoroughness of some of that discussion as well. But let me see what you self-diagnosed.
Very good. Right on. A thoroughness, probably first and foremost. I think I got lost in the weeds on this one. Again, it felt like the calls, what was going on in this case, it just kind of threw me off just right off the bat, and I couldn't get myself settled. But you're bringing up the Commerce Clause, which it seems now after listening to your review, that was a fringe, if anything, issue, not really even needed. But I kind of spent a lot of time on that and didn't even hit really the spending power, frankly. I hit commandeering. I don't think my discussion was thorough. I ran through equal protection, but I didn't, the peanut butter and jelly, I guess, that you push out there with the substantive due process. I did not do substantive due process. Without throwing you off of track of where we are right now, I get between equal protection and substantive due process, they both apply the scrutinies. You go through that whole deal. What is even the difference between them?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, you know, think about it. I'm not sure if you're, are you in the LA area by chance? What area do you live in?
I live in Koreatown.
Okay. Yeah. So you're in LA, you're in Koreatown. So look, think of this like the valley, right? You got multiple ways to get to the valley. It doesn't matter how you get there, whether it's Ventura Boulevard, it's the 101, right? You got all these different freeways and streets. Think of getting to a constitutional violation. You have all these different avenues that can possibly get you there. And you're looking at them interchangeably, and you're looking as the challenger, what are the best routes, right? Which one has the least amount of traffic right now, right? And so equal protection in this case has the least amount of traffic because I know that I can get strict scrutiny here for this. Now, going the substantive due process route in that framework, as it applies to this scenario, is going to give me rational basis. It's going to make it more difficult for me to get to that end result with rational basis review. But ultimately, it's like the reason why they can kind of come up together is that these are very like parallel, similar paths, and many scenarios could fall within this framework, right? What else can get you a violation of constitutional rights? First Amendment freedom of speech. But that's such a specific scenario to trigger speech that you can't generally apply that to a fact pattern like you can here. What about freedom of religion? Such a specific, right, scenario. You need religion involved. So equal protection and substantive due process, they're peanut butter and jelly because these are so dynamic and flexible that you can always come up with an argument. Now, whether it is going to be a strong argument is another question, but you can at least get the ball rolling on a discussion there. And then the thing to remember is that equal protection is all about isolating and figuring out what is the classification here? Who's being treated differently than somebody else, right? What group is being treated differently? And if that group is identified as a suspect or quasi-suspect class, then you're in the money as a challenger because you know you get a higher scrutiny level. So that's that type of quick analysis you have to do with common law. You have to be so good with these individual rights. You're quickly assessing these things to see which route is going to be, right? The same way, if it's like you have to know the freeways and the streets so well that if it's 4 o'clock and you need to get to Ventura, you know, like, all right, you know, it's 4 o'clock at this time, I'm gonna take the 101, or, oh, now it's 10 p.m. on Saturday, I know to take this. You got to know all these routes. So on this exam, you can assess that in a quick way. And just to round out that analysis, substantive due process, that's not about classifications. That's whether the federal government is getting involved in the infringing of a fundamental right. So there's a list of things that we have now listed as fundamental rights. And if the government is starting to infringe on those rights, put in these burdens of you being able to enjoy those rights, well, then that's going to amount to a higher scrutiny test, a strict scrutiny, to where the government has to show really good reason for infringing on those rights. And so the thing is that you can always just kind of make the quick argument like, all right, you know, do we have any fundamental right involved here? You can make these stretch arguments, but if you don't have it, you don't have it. So here you would ultimately say there is no fundamental right involved. So it's simply RBR. You would run through it quickly because this analysis right here will look a lot similar to this analysis right here. And so the last thing I'll say to you, Vincent, is that what I want you to work on, and it's something that we stress a lot of within Legally Fit, right? And you're kind of hearing that a little bit from Mamta. It's like, we want to be able to read a fact pattern, and everything is about quick, just like assessment of what are my options to discuss, what makes the most sense, get in and get out. We might not always like it, but it starts to become a process of elimination and less kind of emotion-based issue spotting, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit harder to get stumped and lost by the fact pattern, because it's like, look, I know this fact pattern is triggering something that I have in my like bank of material. Now I just need to isolate what are my options, pick from those options on what's best, you know, and you're removing all the emotion.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right. Ramona, we'll do one more. How about you? How did you do on this essay? And are there any main takeaways for you on, you know, where you could improve?
Yes. So I got a 60 on the first read, and on the second read, I got a 55. So not great, either one. But not awful either, in my opinion. So I hit 14th Amendment, but there are things that I think I just skipped because I was rushing. So like standing, I did not talk about it. I just jumped straight into the 14th Amendment analysis. I didn't even know about peanut butter, so substantive due process was not in my mind at that time. I did talk about the 10th Amendment. I just don't think I did the analysis correctly. And that's because I hadn't practiced it a ton. But I did talk about the 10th Amendment. And then the second question is where I know I didn't get any points because I talked about third party standing instead of organizational standing. I think that was a panic moment. So yeah.
That was that. Yep.
That's
so
that.
A little bit issue spotting. Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of mostly issue spotting. And that's a very good point to raise. 14th Amendment. That's always like a tricky trigger to raise. It's not a very popularly tested topic, but it does come up. And yeah, 14th Amendment. This is a source of power for Congress to ensure equal rights and due process for U.S. citizens. Look out for a law passed by Congress that is eliminating discrimination in some area. So are they saying outright that they're eliminating discrimination? No, but can you make that argument? I think absolutely, Ramona, right? In that you can argue that there is some discrimination possibly in, well, I guess they're not really pointing it out, but maybe in that these low income and minority students, go back to the fact pattern and see exactly what that language was.
Something like the majority of the schools were majority non-Caucasian students, I think is how they classified it.
Yeah. It says that testimony also revealed that the rates of childhood diabetes tend to be highest in minority and low-income communities. So, right, connecting the low income to minority, and then the low income with access to healthier foods, and the schools probably have it right, et cetera, that this is to remedy discrimination, right? Racial discrimination, and maybe financial discrimination, et cetera. So I think it's definitely a decent argument here. Again, however, is it needed? At the end of the day, the 14th Amendment is being used as a source of power, and this so squarely fits within spending that this, again, is just kind of like a small little add-on. Yeah. So, but I do think that that's good, a good catch. And I think, you know, it's not like a super long discussion here. So I think that's, you know, maybe for mom that could have been something that possibly took her to a 75 even, or maybe 80. So there we go. Okay, I'll open it up now. We're getting to the 8 o'clock mark. I'll open it up for a few last questions or thoughts or impressions on this essay before we wrap up and transition into maybe a 5 to 10 minute quick little explanation on Legally Fit, what we're doing for this July, and any questions that students have regarding signing up. And then I know there's a few students that wanted to talk about, customizing their plan. I do want to address that more or less as a group, because a lot of students kind of fit into certain buckets on what their situations are and what their attack plans need to be. But yeah, one thing at a time. So any wrap up questions on this essay?
John Deere, real quick, thank you. Do you think that there might be another one coming up in July, another con law one, or you think we're safe?
Jack, I am not in the business of fortune telling, man. and I specifically refrain from doing so because look, you're gonna be the first person calling and saying, DeAndre, you said it was gonna be con law on there. So as always, the message is to stay prepared, because look, well, one thing I can promise you is equal protection is gonna show up on the MBE, right? So we're gonna stay on top of it to be ready for anything.
All right, my man, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Okay, so I'll go ahead and jump into a little bit of what our options are for this upcoming school year. Let me see if I have, I'm sure I have like a little quick presentation just so I can give you guys something visual. Give me 1 second just to pull that up. Okay, I found where it was at. It's in the I didn't pass now what. Ooh, that is the wrong one. All right, let's go to the offerings. Okay, so we have 2 programs here. We have the Elevated Self-Study and we have the Premium Bar Prep Experience, the Legally Fit Bar Prep Plus. I'm going to work my way backwards. The Legally Fit Bar Prep Plus is our long-standing program. This is where Legally Fit started, where we sought out to create a hybrid program. We wanted to have something where students can have materials that they come to expect of a big box company, where you have materials for the PT, for the essay, and for the MBE, right? So when you come to Legally Fit, you don't really need the materials buffet. The only thing that we recommend is that you either have UWorld or Adaptabar for a bank of questions, and we love their ability to track your progress with individual topics and subjects on that MBE performance. And so since they have those algorithms and those systems, we like students to utilize those. But everything else after that, how to improve your essay writing, your PT, all that stuff, we have. One big thing that no matter which program you do, that's going to be the big difference with Legally Fit is how we break down the material and the strategy that we give you guys for studying and executing. So we saw a lot of that strategy today, and you see that there's a lot of this reliance on our folder system. That folder system, again, is an organized way to keep all the material that you have to learn for a class in this like clean, almost like a clean room. Like if I'm in my clean room and I know I need to find my keys, I know it's either in my drawer or on top of the desk. If I need to find my socks, I know exactly where it's at. So we focus on teaching the law in that way. So then now you have absolute recall and access to all these topics, and that it assists with your issue spotting. And then you can use process of elimination to assist you in MBEs and essays. In addition to that, we hang our hat on the ability to break down the most difficult concepts in law school and on the bar and explain them in a much faster way. So I always say this for all those that are doing Legally Fit for a second time: you do not need to rely on the videos because you already experienced the magic and you got the law. Now, if you've gone through that, now you just need to put more practice in on your skills. right? You need to put practice on more practice essays, more practice MBEs, and then you just use the videos, the blueprints, the hypos, all that great stuff to troubleshoot any understanding of a topic that you see as a stubborn issue. So if Mamta is going through con law, she's doing essays and multiple choice. Then she does an essay and she sees the dormant commerce clause and she didn't understand that essay well. She keeps getting questions wrong. Well, now she could jump into the blueprints and the video to troubleshoot that understanding. Now, if you are new to Legally Fit, right, and you're coming over from a Themis or Barbary, right, some things that we've seen be the immediate reason why you pass is just a deeper understanding of the law. So you definitely want to spend that time going through the videos, the blueprints, the hypos, etc. And I know as a repeat taker, a lot of times you're like, the last thing I want to do is watch more videos, but take it from some of the Legally Fit alum that'll tell you there's going to be a lot of value in that because you're going to have a deeper understanding of the material that's going to help with issue spotting, right? So for Vincent, in that lecture video, we're going to be talking about the fact that, hey, equal protection is a peanut butter and jelly topic with substantive due process, right? And all these tips and tricks and ways to remember the law. So I highly recommend that new students go through that. The one last thing that I will share on that, and this is my advice to repeat takers and first time takers, anybody, is that you have to lean into the materials that work well for you, right? You may be an auditory learner. You may be a kinesthetic learner. So you need to do hypos to really get it. You may be a visual learner. You need charts and visual diagrams. So there's been this recent trend where everything is video. And video is really good because even video can incorporate auditory and visual. However, make sure you are paying attention to what works best for you to digest new material and don't waste your time with something that doesn't work. So I'll give you a quick example of that. When I was doing my bar prep, about 10 years back now, part of the assignment was to sit and read the outline as like an introduction to the class before you did anything else. I would sit there and literally waste 2 hours trying to read through an outline because for me, that just simply did not work, right? Especially if I was like I'm reading an outline after I know it, maybe, but as an introduction, it's like, this is not it. So I have to, do something different that works for me. I'm not just going to keep doing that if it doesn't work. So empower yourselves to find out what works for you. So bring that all back to the Legally Fit Bar Prep Plus. I kind of went into just like what are aspects of the program, no matter what you take, that you'll get from Legally Fit. The additional benefits here are that you're going to have a live MBE skill building workshops. You're going to have live essay writing workshops. All the workshops are going to be with me this year. And you're going to have daily/weekly accountability checks, access to recent bar passers for mentoring and support, live weekly mental health check-ins. These are optional, but for those that need it, one of the ringing themes for my repeat takers, right, are just like, man, I'm feeling just like a little tired, a little mentally beat right now. And so we understand that getting back into the ring, right, can have its challenges now and also during the process. So we like to come together as a team, as a community, as a unit to make sure we know we're all in this together. We kind of use that group energy to make sure we're getting past it. All right. And then we have some additional extras and surprises that, again, they're amazing surprises, but they wouldn't be surprises if I told you what they were. But ultimately, this Legally Fit Bar Prep Plus is our way to hybrid private coaching with a big box company. It's a way to hybrid amazing materials and explanation of the law, also with supporting students, both with emotional and mental needs, right? That goes with studying for the bar, especially multiple times. So if you go to the left, you have the elevated self-study program. So this is our lower tier option as far as price, right? You're going to get all the amazing materials, but you're essentially going to have more of that traditional big box experience where you're pretty much given the materials and you're self-studying through that. You get a schedule, you get the materials, and you're studying on your own. And for some people, they want that. And so that's why we went ahead and created this tier as well. The one big difference is that even with this model, you also get office hours. So you get office hours with both programs, and that's a great place that if you have questions and you are stumbling on something, you can go in there and get those questions answered. All right. And then next, I'm going to talk about private coaching. So this is really good, especially talking about repeaters, right? Because if you are repeating, again, your biggest focus needs to be on what's going to take me over the hump, right? If you're coming to Legally Fit for the first time, a lot of times it's like a deeper understanding of the law could be what I need. And private coaching is not really needed for the heavy lifting of that. You can use private coaching for maybe then specified stubborn areas, right? But private coaching is overall going to be good that if you have a list of, let's say, questions regarding the law and you don't want to deal with office hours where there may be other people there, you can use private coaching for that. But the number one reason to use private coaching is to improve your skills. It's to go through practice essays with your tutor. It's to go through practice MBEs with your tutor. And you can use these to identify your issues, to create a personalized attack plan, because sometimes adjusting the schedule we give you to your needs can be difficult, and you don't want to kind of like go off the beaten path and do something too radical and set yourself up for failure. The other day we talked a lot about you don't want to overcorrect. Sometimes students will overcorrect, and we've seen that where they were weak on their MBEs and strong on their essays, and all they did was MBEs, and then now their essays are weak, right, and their MBEs are strong. So you don't want to overcorrect, so we can help with creating that plan. And then lastly, we can provide weekly execution assistance on that plan. So again, if MBE is your problem, let's meet weekly. Let's go through MBE questions. Let's keep track of your progress, give you the additional accountability and motivation you need to get better. Okay. There's flexible scheduling. It's first come, first serve. There is limited spots for private coaching. The price is $150 an hour if you come as needed, but you can also sign up before next week for either once a week or twice a week session for the entire bar prep period. And if you do so, that pricing goes down to $100 an hour. So if you do once a week for 2 hours, it's $2,000, and twice a week for 2 hours, so a total of 4 hours for that week, it's $4,000. Okay, so those are our options. Private coaching is really good, again, for skills. It's really good for legally fit students who are coming back and really want somebody to help them develop their skills. Again, if they went through the program correctly and went through all the material and the hypos and they feel good with the law and they need that extra bump in the skills, this is a good option. All right, a quick timeline on everything that we're doing. Monday was the didn't pass, now what? If anybody here did not attend the didn't pass, now what, you will receive an email if you haven't already with a link to that. It was a really good session. Feel free to check that out. We are currently in orientation right now. If there is anybody that is considering joining Legally Fit for the first time, I would recommend the earlier the better, because we like to download all of our ways of studying, the mentality of studying before you start contracts on Monday. So it's good to sign up so you can at least still have some time between now and Sunday to do that, because on Monday, it's time to hit the ground running. Now, worst case scenario, if you don't have the time to do that, it's okay. And you'll be able to, find the time to fit in those orientation videos and just learn on the go. All right, we did Tuesday and Wednesday, essay breakdown. Those are great. And then, next Monday is the official start of the program. So I'll stop sharing there. Ramona, I'll start with you. I know you were mentioning you had some possible questions about the program, and then we'll open it up to, everybody else as well. So any questions, Ramona?
So the first slide you showed us had the option on the right and then the left option. The left was the $2,200 one. I'm curious what the schedules look like, because I'm still working, not a full schedule, but I'm still working, and I know they're not live sessions. I'm just curious, like, how many hours a day does that typically, like, is it like a full hours or? Yeah,
so it's recommended that you study from 9 a.m. to give or take 7 p.m. right? And I'm curious too. We got Mamta and Marlene in here. Out of curiosity, how long did the schedule take you guys on average for most of those days?
From dawn till sunset. Like, man, it would be like you would blink and the clock is 10 o'clock at night.
So okay, Mamta's like, it was just all day. I can't tell you. What about you, Marlene? Any more specificity?
It felt like an all day thing too, but I am a big, my breaks, I'm big into breaks. So I prolonged my day by getting a workout in and getting, a meal, where I would actually step away from my computer. So I just took a lot of breaks. So I prolonged my day.
And it was all day. So to answer that question, to give it like, a tie on that bow there, it's that it's an all day commitment, the way that it's built, Ramona. However, I knew that, we would have a lot of students, especially repeaters, coming in, right, with other obligations, but they couldn't always do that. So the schedule is relatively easy to downsize as needed, right? So your days are very clear, right? And it's very simple, right? So you only have essentially 3 types of days in a legally fit schedule. You have a learn day, you have an essay day, and you have a multiple choice day. And so let's talk about the 2 of those practice days. It's really simple. On essay day, you have 6 essays to do, and on MBE day, you have 45 multiple choice to do. So if your schedule doesn't allow for, you don't have a full-time day, you'll just then do as many of those as you can in whatever time allotted you have because of work. And then on learn day, kind of same concept. Maybe you won't make it through all of the material, but you can hand pick what are the sections and topics that I need to prioritize. So it's built for all day, but it is easily downsized to your particular needs.
That leads into my next question. I hope this is answering other people's questions, but this leads into my next question about, because I believe it said that it recommended to purchase like an additional MBE bank something. So I was going to purchase AdaptAbar. So is that already like in the program, or do I need to figure? Okay. Awesome.
So when it says do on MBE day, when it says do 45 questions, that is 45 questions from your UWorld or your AdaptAbar.
Got it. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
All right, who's next? Lisa.
Hi, sorry, I don't know where the hand button on the video. Can you hear me? Okay, so I am pretty happy. I like to say that I found your company, because I wish I had found your company before, then I didn't have to waste other money on other law prep. I really like your style. So my question is, I already emailed you that have made my plan, my decision, going through the 3 phases. Yes. So I decided I'm not going to take the July 2023. Instead, I'm going to take the February 2024, because I work full time. I need to kind of, it's a personal decision. So I'm pretty much, I'm going to be calling Monique, I guess your wife, right? Mrs. Aubrey. I have to contact her, since I want to start with the orientation, which is starting Monday.
Yes.
So I understand that self-study program is a 13-week or 12-week.
Self-study, all the programs for like the standard programs are 10 weeks, but in this phase of what you're going to do, you're going to self-study with that material from now until the end of August.
Because I have served a website, and I have heard that it's a 13-week, and then some say 12 weeks. So I'm kind of not sure.
We're creating something new for students that are trying to plan out, essentially, right? What are we, like 9 months out from next February or something around that. So we're creating this whole new thing based off of students saying, we're going to go to the February exam. So you won't find any of this on the website, because this is all kind of being made on the spot of creating a custom schedule for those that want to take February, and they know that now.
Okay. So starting Monday to end of November. And from there, then I'm going to continue with my self-study, which is phase 2, correct?
Mm-hmm. So, and here's what we'll do. I need to do anyway to like just make this clean and clear, because we have now multiple students who are considering taking the February 2024. What'll be easiest, and I'll probably do this either tonight or tomorrow, is make a clear timeline on what this 3-phase approach is and send that to you so you can just see it. And I'll just give it to you one time, and then I'll also send it to you. So it's phase 1 is you self-study between now and the end of August, And the objective here is to go through all the legally fit materials, touch on all the classes, and get really comfortable with the material. Now, typically during this time frame, you'll be working. So it's very important that my recommendation is that you watch videos during the weekend and learn during the weekend, and then you do practice for those subjects during the week. Okay, so more detail on that later.
Okay.
And then after you finish that first phase of now until the end of August, from September until the end of November, that's phase 2, where you're going to work on the issues you identified from phase 1. So now this is a shorter time period where you're going to hone in on all those weaknesses. And this is where you can either self-study or work with a private coach, right, to help execute on those weaknesses. And then when it comes phase 3, now you'll be ready for that standard 10-week program from December until February. And there you can either choose to self-study and continue to self-study, or you can upgrade to the live program and experience the full, legally fit bar prep in that last phase of mid-December to February.
Okay. Thank you so much.
There we go, Lisa. Awesome. Okay.
How many essay do we get to write on the self? Is it all going to be built in on the schedule?
During the first phase, right now, there's no built-in essay grading, right? You'll be able to either get essay grading in phase 2 if you want to do private coaching, or you'll do essay grading in phase 3 when it's the full-on program. So you'll yeah.
But I thought we're going to have at least do one essay is a self-grading.
And yeah, and that's a very good point. Let me write that note down. We can, I'll talk to Monique about like how we can logistically put in some possible essay grading in phase 1 for the students doing this. So let me write that note down, and then I'll circle back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I don't think it would be an issue to put in some essay grading there. Okay. All right. I know Marlene and Ellie wanted to stick around towards the end. You guys want to talk to me as a group? Let me check in with just a few more people. Yeah. Jack, did you have any questions before we, wrapped up for the day?
Yeah, I just was going to ask you, do you guys offer just like a la carte? Like if I wanted to just do like counseling sessions for you guys to like review what I scored and what you guys think I can improve and anything like that, pay kind of, per session with you guys?
Yeah, so we do have the a la carte private coaching where it's $150 an hour, and then you can use that for game planning. You can use that to go over the law, right? Whatever you desire. Yep.
Okay.
The a la carte. Yeah. Monique can send you an email for the link to sign up for the private coaching.
Okay. Do you guys have our email, or should I need to send that to you?
Have you logged in with anything? Do we have you in our system?
I don't think so. I'll send it to you real quick.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, put it in the chat for everyone to see. Monique's in here right now, so she'll grab that and get that over to you.
I'm just gonna send it to you.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Ramona, I see you heading out. Have a good one. Leah, look forward to having you in the program. And then, all right, Mamta, see ya.
And then DeAndre, real quick, are you guys going to have any more reviews for the essays that we did in February this week?
Just these 2.
Okay. All right. Thank you, brother.
There might be a recording of the one from yesterday. If you missed that one, we did property.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. And then Vincent, you good, man?
I didn't get his email address.
Oh, you didn't get Jack's email address? No. Oh, I guess he left without putting it in there.
Oh.
It was Jack Alcantara. Oh, I have it still right here. Yeah. So see if we could Alcantara. See if he is can be found anywhere on the World Wide Web.
There it is. Check.
Yeah, that's just his name. Okay, cool.